All right, first question.
I don't know.
Yeah, but
Yeah, but
how do you handle or respond when someone makes you their idol? How do you handle or respond when someone makes you their idol?
part of what you have to do is once you learn that they've chosen you to be their idol, anticipate their disappointments with you quickly. Okay? Expect them to have a lot of issues with you because they're not seeing you as a person to love, they're seeing you as a person to use. So wisdom says, I can't change this, but I need to anticipate how it's going to come at me. And when the time is right, I need to share with them how their expectations of me are driving this relationship and to reconsider doing something different. Now, that may not always happen because when people are stuck in their ways, they're stuck in their ways. So be prepared to be at the highs of their life and the lows of their life and learn how to endure that time until God brings them to their senses. One of the most difficult things that we have to do with people is sometimes we haven't learned yet, but we have to suffer through other people's character deficiencies. And what that means is this: you are close to some people and they haven't changed. They don't see the issue of changing, but yet you're committed to being with them. You have to learn what I call suffer well. Because until they are broken and ready to see, which you can't make them see, God is using that to make you better, not bitter. And so as I've learned that some people have made me idols in their lives, I've understood that they enjoy me when I do what they want. They hate me when I don't. And the reality is they haven't learned how to love me. They're still using me. And I've got to work through that with them and suffer well. No, that's not what you want to hear, but it's the reality. Does that make sense? You know, think about your children. Sometimes your children make you their idols. And they believe their whole world revolves around your decisions. And they love you when you do what they want. They hate you when you don't. Sometimes your spouses do that with you. So it's a process of learning how to love them consistently, sharing the truth with them about how they're handling you, waiting for the Lord to use it as an opportunity to help them change.
Next question. I think they're quoting you. You mentioned that psychology considers certain things as needs, but they're not needs. Example, to be loved, respected, safe, happy, etc. Is it therefore wrong to have those desires, or is it only wrong when those desires are elevated to the position of being an idol?
Love the answer that you answered in the question. And the answer is, it's not wrong to desire love, to be accepted. I mean, I want to be loved. I want to be accepted. It's when my world is reduced to those things, absolutely. So it's nothing wrong with wanting that. It's when you live for it. It's nothing wrong with expecting it from people. It's when you demand it from people. And you know when you've demanded from people when they don't give it to you, your reactions. Because if you can live without it, you're in a good spot. But if your whole demeanor has changed when they didn't give it to you, now you've known it's become a demand in worship. So hopefully that helps.
Do you personally, do you have men in your life that can ask you tough questions about your relationship with the Lord and your relationship with others? So are there men in your life?
Yes. There are 5 men that can tell me what to do. And when me and my wife don't really get along or we can't really resolve it, the moment she threatens to call one of those men, I go, wait a minute. I think we can work this out. Because these men have that much authority in my life that I've given that they can come in my house where I pay the bills and tell me what to do. And because I respect them, I'll do it. And there are 5 women in her life that if she gets really out of the way, I can call one of them and she don't want me to call them because she has that much respect. One of the things I'll tell you, if no one can tell you what to do, then no one can help you in anything you're doing. And every couple needs somebody that they will submit to and follow the instructions of those people, whether they agree with them or not. But if no one can tell you what to do, then no one can help you. That's what I tell people in counseling. Counseling only helps if you're willing to submit to authority and follow instructions. And where you can't do that, it won't help. It's just a good conversation. And what I found with a lot of people, no one can tell them what to do because they're not accountable to anybody. And so as the head of our church with other leaders around, there's accountability. If I act crazy, they can put me out. If I'm doing something they don't think is biblically solid, I can be challenged on it. But even apart from that, these 5 men have authority to my life to come into my house and say, you are in sin, and this is what needs to happen. And if I'm not listening to them, I'm gone anyway. And God is going to deal with me tremendously. So absolutely, everybody needs it, everybody.
Now, how would you counsel someone that worries to the point of manifesting or experiencing physical symptoms? So worry is to the point of a physical ailment.
Well, I'm going to deal with them in the worry before it gets there. Because worry, even though we think it's respectable sin, it's a sin. And so where there's worry, there's worship. So I'm going to teach them about the idolatrous lust. We're going to work through what they are consumed with that they think they might stand to lose, or I like to put it this way, what they can't cause to happen or they can't keep from happening. We're going to have a lot of discussions about that. And who is God and how does he apply his sovereignty to their lives? And I'm going to help them work through that with worry. And where they're willing to embrace that they have something that's way more important, and we confess, repent, replace, and start to embrace the sovereignty practically and deal with the issues of what they're trying to control they can't control, we're going to help them through that. Because the physiological effect is just saying your worry has got to a place where now it's affecting the body, which means that we've gotten to it a little bit too late.
I think this is what this question is saying. So we're called to speak the truth in love. And if you say the hard thing to someone that's not willing to hear or is struggling with hearing subjects like adultery, fornication, unforgiveness, and that person accuse you of being pharisaical or unloving, what or how can you speak to someone if you speak to them in love and the truth hurts? Is it your tone, posture? So what's helpful to speak difficult truth to?
Let me make it plain. You can be as sweet and put sugar on top, but I need you to understand something about Galatians 6:1 and Romans 8. Galatians 6:1 says, if your brother is sin, you who are spiritual, which means you're walking by the Spirit, go and restore such a one, but you be careful lest you too be tempted. Okay, what that means is this. We think because we're telling people the truth, they're going to go, oh, thank you, oh wise one. Now that you've come and given me this insight, had you not given me this insight, my life would be so different. And now because you've spoken the truth to me, I'm going to change and move forward. Thank you for sharing. See, we've got this idea that because we speak the truth to people, they're going to accept it. But what we fail to understand is that in Romans chapter 8, it says those who are in the flesh are hostile towards God. Well, if they're in the sin, they're already what? In the... So when we come speak the truth, what should we expect them to be towards us? And we don't get that. See, in our minds, it's us. And because we're so special, we're coming with the Bible, and now we have prayed about it, and we've talked about the right time, and now we're going to give people the word, and they're going to go, oh, thank you. It's not reality. They're caught in sin. Expect them to be hostile towards you. You can smile, you can be patient, but they're going to be hostile until God breaks them. And that may or may not be the moment they're broken. But if you think because you tell people the truth, they're going to listen to you, you have missed it. Can I make it plain? How many times did people tell you the truth and you didn't listen? But you think you're special. It's different because it's you. Get over yourself. It's hard to love people because people don't want to be loved that way. Faithful are the wounds of a friend. deceitful are the kisses of an enemy. And sometimes the more you love someone, the more they want to bite you. And it's not personal. It's because they're in the flesh. Hostile towards God. Does everybody understand that? That's why I tell a lot of people, you got to learn to suffer well in the love ministry. Suffer well. Okay? Hope that answers for you.
Next question. I have many Christian friends who come to me talking about their quote unquote problems in their marriage. The theme I hear is, this isn't a marriage. I am becoming more bold to discuss the root of all our problems. How can I balance not minimizing the reality of hard things with loving exhortation that God has a bigger plan and they are also at fault? So how, did you get that?
I think I understand. I would try to summarize this by saying this to people with marriage issues. We don't have marriage problems. We have character deficiencies that have showed up in the marriage. And the moment you can begin to phrase it with that reality, because it's not a marriage problem, you're married to this person, and this character deficiency in this situation has showed up that you've never addressed. And this is another area where you have been called to live to please God that you're not. And so now this clash with your spouse, you think it's a marital problem. No, it's two people operating in the flesh in this area. Had this person not did certain things and not do certain things, you never would have revealed just how depraved you are in this area and your need to change in this area. It's not a marriage problem. It's a character deficiency problem. And the more you're willing to see it in that light, as I tell people, your marriage is fine. It's the character that needs fixing. The marriage is doing its job. Put two people together in the flesh. What are you going to get? What happens when those two people deal with those fleshly issues and begin to live to please God in those areas? What happens to that relationship? Marriages change when people change their character, not because they follow a formula. And the more they work on their character, the more the marriage changes. The marriage is a progression as far as what's happening to the character that's in the marriage. The more you're living to please Christ, what will the marriage look like? The more you're living to please self, what will the marriage look like? So, and I tell people, even if you got rid of this guy, if you got rid of this gal and went to somebody else, you're going to have the same problem because the problem is sitting in your seat. Like this guy I counseled on his fifth wife. He says, you know what? I think it's me. I said, you think? You now on wife number 5 see that it's you? So this fantasy that you can have the right person is a lie from the pit of hell. The reality is all of you can walk in what's right and become right in the marriage and be a blessing to each other or be a burden. It's always about your sanctification or lack thereof. You get rid of somebody and marry somebody else, why am I having these problems? I thought I wasn't going to have this with you. Yeah, but you forgot one simple thing. The same reason you marry will be the same reason you divorce. If you marry for selfish reasons, you will divorce for selfish reasons. You always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. So hopefully, whoever that was for, I hope that helps the question there.
All right, final question that was in the box. What happens if you're just obeying God? So if you're obeying God, what?
What happens?
Yeah.
Well,
Pastor Carl wrote this question.
let's look at Psalm 16:11. Let's go there for just one moment. So when you're just obeying God, that will lead you to know him, become like him, and be useful to him. But here's the experience that you will also have in just obeying God. Before we look at Psalm 16:11, John 14:21 says, he who has his commandments and keepeth them, it is he who loves me. And he who loves me, I will disclose myself to him. When God exposes himself to you, here's what happens when you are in his presence. I'm trying to get there. All right, here we go, here we go. Where are we? Verse 11 says, Thou wilt make known to me the path of life. In thy presence is fullness of joy. In thy right hand are pleasures forever. So the more you obey God, you get in his presence. The more you're in his presence, you get the fullness of joy that's not conditioned upon people and circumstances, and you get a satisfaction of the soul that's not conditioned upon people and circumstances. That's what happens when you're just obeying God. Okay?
All right. Are